Hi, Embracing Only podcast family. This is Archita. We are introducing impact moments, actionable insights that highlight the best and powerful learning moments and wisdom from our past episodes of incredible guests. In this highlight reel, you'll hear leadership lessons from a combat veteran, taking action to be anti-racist, mastering workplace negotiations, leveraging your uniqueness for success. We'll take a topic and break it down in a short, snappy episode. So click on the link in the show notes to continue listening to these impact moments with our amazing guests. You honed a craft, you were confident in your craft and engaged numerous people with it. A lot of us who are high achieving women or men who have spent a long career in things go into spaces where they are the most qualified person, still struggle with taking action to move from the place of, yes, I'm good at it, I'm great at it, I'm the best, but now how do I go share this gift with others? So What was your journey like, and how do you empower women to do that and go on that journey and take that leap across the chasm?
One of the things that was said to me many years ago when I was in my undergrad education is our program director sat us down and said, okay, what are you good at? And it was like, I was supposed to answer that question. And because in any lane, but particularly I think as a performer, it's all about adjustment. It's all about critique. It's all about change it this way. Let's change it this way. Let's try it this way. And so I'd spent 4 years, I was a senior at this point. I'd spent 4 years knowing what I needed to work on, but no one had ever asked me, what are you good at? And it really is a moment in my life that stuck with me. And it's one I use now with my students, because I think we get in this habit, especially as women, where we always need to work on something, whether it's our bodies or it's our work-life balance or it's our mental health or it's self-care, or whatever it is at work, climbing the ladder, whatever. We know what we need to work on. And we get together with our girlfriends and we talk about what we need to work on and what we're doing to do that. But we very rarely, I find, talk about what we're good at and what we know are our strengths. And so I ask my students that question all the time, because I think, how is anyone supposed to hire you if you don't believe in you? If you can't tell me what are your strengths, which I know is a very common interview question, and really know what they are, how am I supposed to know what they are? And I think for women, there is almost an embarrassment factor that comes with this idea that I'm going to let the world know that I'm an expert in a certain subject, or that I'm going to speak up and challenge. And I get it, because there's risk there. I just did a talk for Speak Out Revolution in the UK, and that was one of the things I led with was, why don't women speak up? And I shared a story where I was working for a theater company. I was young. And so I did what I had always done. I shut my mouth and I got gold stars and followed the rules and did my work. And that had always worked for me throughout school. And so that's what I did. And it worked really well until I started speaking up, until I started having ideas and sharing them and saying, challenging the leaders and challenging sort of the status quo. And it came time, I was interviewing for a position of leadership, and I didn't get it. And I was told, you used to be really easy and now you're difficult. And that was the word they used. You've really changed.
Nothing bugs me more than that.
Yep, you've really changed. It used to be just ask Jessica and she's on it. And now I don't know, you've become difficult. And I didn't get the promotion. And that's something that I share a lot, because I think that's a very real risk that women take when we choose to speak up. But also, isn't that what we value in leadership, is that when you're in school, it's be quiet and sit quietly and follow the rules, which I get because I have taught middle school children. And it's, yes, that is what you want them to be doing. But when you become an adult, it's leaders think outside the box, and leaders challenge the status quo, and leaders do all of these things that we have women that have no idea how to do them. Or when they do, there's real risk associated. with that. So one of the things I try to do with my clients, with my students, is start with what do you know you're good at? Because everybody's good at, are you really organized? Do you have great time management skills? Do you have great comedic timing? What is it? And how can we capitalize upon that now? And for me, it just became working with enough students to really get the idea that, yeah, I'm good at this. My dad, he's one of the leading educational consultants on how the brain learns in the States. And he likes to say that he's a 20-year overnight success, that he's been doing the work for 20 years, but only recently does anybody care. And I really take that to heart as well, is that we live in a culture, and I see this with my students, of immediate gratification, and the idea that if I'm not good at it right now, if I'm not an expert in it right now, then I should just give up because I'm not going to be. And I think for me, it's no, I was a 20-year, a 15-year overnight success where I've been building this up to be where I am now. And now people, my students, sometimes call me a magician, which is very nice. It's just that I've put the time in to create the toolbox to know what I'm doing. And so when you can do those things quickly, it becomes almost like magic, but that's where I start.
Well, you are a magician right there with all of the gems you just dropped. I'm like trying to keep up with all the gems you dropped. So when you like unpack, you started off, you hit the nail on the head. I met a bunch of my girlfriends yesterday for the first time in 7 months. We got a chance to actually sit together, share a meal. And here we are sitting and laughing. And I'm reflecting on the entire sets of conversations we had. It was focused on what we're not good at, like the whole time, on what we're working on. But not one of us even thought of asking, hey, what have you been doing really well? So often we constantly look at ourselves as people who are work in progress and not ready for the world. And we're waiting for permission.
So I have two things that pop into my mind. The first is, your friends sound a lot like my friends in that. And I think too, when you surround yourself, as we have, with women who are driven, this is a conversation one of my best friends and I have a lot, is you get to a point, and now we're both in our late 30s, we have families, jobs, 401ks, we've arrived. And she goes, what now? Like, now I've spent my whole life working to get to where I am now. And now I feel like, okay, I'm there, but that mindset of still working to achieve is still present. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we should always be learning and always be curious and always be educating ourselves and exploring more. The second part about the aim and the arrival, for me, it comes down to self-respect. And to me, self-respect is speaking up for yourself. It's having the confidence and the courage and the know-how to actually put your dreams out there. My dad says, the one who does the work does the learning. And to me, that means you can journal all you want. And I think journaling is great and self-talk is very important, but you're never actually going to make a change until you do the work. You're never actually going to put it into motion. You can prepare yourself, and I think that's great. But for me, the work has to come. And I think that's perhaps where a lot of women miss the arrival, is that they set themselves up, they're journaling, they're talking about it, they're thinking about it, but they don't really have the steps in place, or they're scared to actually do whatever it is that they want to do. And so for me, it comes down to the voice. It comes down to the idea that I think for a lot of women, for a lot of people, public speaking is scary. And public speaking doesn't have to mean me in front of 1,000 people in an amphitheater. It could just be me giving a presentation, or me at an interview, or whatever it might be. But it's scary. It's, oh my gosh, are my legs going to start shaking? Are my hands going to clam up? Excuse me. Do I know the sound that's going to come out of my voice? Is it going to be too high or too low or too soft? Am I going to lose track of what I'm saying and not be able to get back on? And so even when we go into those moments, it's often those thoughts that we're having before we go in. We're coming in from a place of fear, as opposed to putting the work in place to create the muscle memory and to create the mindset that, no, I can do this. I know what's going to happen, and I'm prepared for the things that might also happen. I know how to get back on. And that comes down to doing the work, to practicing. And obviously you have to be told, or a lot of women haven't been told how to practice for those things, which is where I see my work really coming in.
I love that. I just was pulling up a quote. It says, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And my gosh, isn't that the truth? When we step out of our suffering to look at the reality of what we actually accomplished, I think we embrace that journey and celebrate more what we did accomplish. But yes, I just like it just really
Absolutely.
made me feel that. So
Absolutely. I say to my students a lot, and to clients that I work with, what is the worst that's going to happen? Often when we're working on a new skill, there's a lot of vulnerability to get in front of someone and use your voice, whether you're speaking or whether you're singing. When you're in front of people, it does make you very vulnerable. I think particularly today, where so much of what we do is texting or emailing, and you don't have to have that face-to-face as often. And so I ask them, what is the worst that's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you, the worst thing that's going to happen is you will bomb and we will do it again. That is the absolute worst that's going to happen, is that we'll do it again. We'll try again. And I think they look at me and go, oh, okay, you're not judging me, or I'm not going to fail, or I'm not going to be told that I'm terrible and things like that. And I think that's just so important, is that the worst that's going to happen in this moment, and that's not always the same in every moment, but in this moment, usually the worst that's going to happen is not as bad as we make it up in our mind to be.